Hello everyone, and thank you for watching my 2 for 8 video tutorial. And this will be our first lecture when we will start writing scripts to make our game actually work. And generally it's a good idea to create a separate folder for your scripts, so I'm going to go to our assets folder, right click and hit create folder, and I'm going to call this one scripts. And when you have absolutely nothing working in your application, you usually want to get at least something done as fast as possible. So in this lecture I'm going to create not one but 2 scripts. So I'm going to right click and go to this create menu and create a C# script, and this C# script will be called game manager. And I'm going to go and create another C# script which will be called input manager. And then I can just double click on one of these scripts, which will open the script in MonoDevelop. And we have our input manager open, and here in this solution tab on the side I can open our game manager in a separate tab, and we can see that currently our scripts are absolutely similar. So we have some auto-generated code that is created by Unity, and the only difference is the name of its class, and they both derive from this class called MonoBehavior. And this MonoBehavior just means that we can attach the scripts to the game objects in our game. So first I would like to go to this input manager, and we have this update method, and update is a function that will be called each frame. Here in this update method I would like to write if, and I will check input dot get key, and in this case I would like to select this get key down option. And into this getKeyDown method I will supply a key code, and then I will write dot. So here we can select an actual key that we will be checking, and I would like to select a right arrow. And after I have done that I can open a new code block. Here I can just write a comment that it will be a right move. So what we have done is we are reading input from our user, and if he presses the right arrow, then we get into this block of code that will be responsible for our move in the right direction. And I think that we'll first complete this block of code that says right move, and then we can just by analogy fill out all the other blocks of code that we'll have. So in the 2 for 8 game we have just 4 kinds of moves. They are move right, move left, up or down, and in this case it is actually very convenient to create an enum. So I will go and on top of this class I will say public enum, and I will call this enum move direction. And here in these brackets I can write all the move directions that we can possibly have. So first will be left, then right, up and down. So what this move direction enum is, it is basically a type that can take just 4 values that will be move direction left, move direction right, up or down, and we will see how I will use this in a second. So now I would like to go to our script that is called game manager. I can switch to this tab, and here I would like to create a method, and this method will be called move public void, so it won't return anything, and it will be called move, and it will take one argument which will be a variable of our newly created type move direction, and I will call this one md, and I will open these brackets and switch to a new line. And here in this move method, for now we won't have any logic that will move our tiles, but just for test purposes I can create a debug log statement that will print something to the console. So I will write debug.log, and here in this parentheses I will write md.toString. So this md.toString, it will present us with a string representation of our variable md. So it will say either left or right or up or down, and I'm going to create another short string to it. So I'm going to type space and say move. So if we are making a left move, our debug log statement will print left move to the console so that we can see what we are doing. And actually that's everything that I'd like to do in this method. And now I can switch to my input manager, and here we have to make sure that input manager knows about the existence of our game manager. So in order to do that, I will create a variable in our input manager that will be private game manager GM, and I will also create an awake method. So I will write void awake, and this awake method is another feature of our mono behavior that our class input manager derives from. We use this awake method for initialization of our variables. So here we will find our game manager, and because we will have just one instance of our game manager, it is safe for me to write gm equals game object dot find game object of type, and here I will supply our type game manager like this. This way we have established the connection with our game manager and obtained a reference to it, and this reference will be stored in this variable gm, and now we can use it to call the method move on our game manager from this input manager. So I'll scroll down a little bit, and in our case of write move, I will add one line of code. So I will write gm.move, and remember, this move method takes one argument of type move direction. So here I will write move direction, and MonoDevelop already suggests us to select one of these options, and in this case we would like to select our move direction right and put a semicolon in the end. So this is basically it for our first case. When our user presses right arrow, we will call our method move in our game manager script, and we will send move direction right to it. And then if we go to game manager, we will see that in this case we will print out to the console right move. So from this if statement that we have, I will create similar cases for left, up and down moves. I will just select this and hit Ctrl C, and here I can write else and hit Ctrl V. So now we have another statement, and I will select that all together and paste it in a couple of more times. And now I will just change all these phrases. So instead of right arrow, this one will say left arrow and move direction left. And I will skip this part of the video, and once I have all this information typed out, we will go to Unity and test it. So now I have changed a couple of lines in these other cases to make them do just what we want them to do. So now to test it in Unity, I can go to File and hit Save All. And now I can just minimize our MonoDevelop. And another important thing that we shouldn't forget to do is that our scripts have to be actually attached to some game object. And in this case, I think it's perfectly fine to attach them to our canvas. I will just grab this game manager, and while holding my left mouse button, I will just drag it here in the lower part of the inspector with our canvas selected in hierarchy. And once I release, the script will be attached to our canvas. And the same thing I will do with our input manager, like this. So once we have done all that, I can just launch the game and see how this code that we have written works. And I would like to have our console selected so we can see what is printed out into the console. And now if I press arrows on my keyboard, so I will press right arrow right now, you can see that our console now says right move. And if I press down, it says down move, up move, left move. Everything works, and I can play with it a little bit. And I will exit play mode. So in this lecture we have created these two scripts, game manager and input manager, and we have established a connection between them. So input manager will call a method on our game manager, and we have launched our game and checked that our connection actually works. And in the next lecture we are going to create another script that will store all the visual information about our tiles. So it will store the color of our tiles, and it will also store the color of these numbers, because you can see that, for example, for a number 2 tile, number 2 appears in this gray color, and for the 64 tile our number is written in white color. So I think our next lecture will be really interesting. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.